Hey y'all, it's Megan. Welcome back to the channel. It's another busy day on the homestead. We're always expanding, working, doing different things. If you're new to the channel, I want to say welcome. And if you're a current subscriber, I want to say thank you so much for your support. So right now we're up on a piece of property that's about a half a mile from our house. If you followed me for any amount of time, you've seen this in multiple videos. So I'm just going to bring you along and show you what we're doing up here today and then some things we're doing at the house. I want to show you this that you see behind Andy. A neighbor put this up over here and we gave him about a year to move it and it never got moved, so we did tell him we were going to move it, so we had to do that this morning before we got started. Gotta love it, right?
You can see right here we're planting just privacy trees. Now we have no grief with our neighbor here. She is on board with us planting these trees too, because since we cleared this land off, the wind comes straight across right here and well, blows at her house all the time because there were trees across here stopping that wind. So when I mentioned to her that I was wanting to plant some trees across, because our property goes almost up to her house, and I just wanted something to separate us, because when you ride down the road it looks like this is all one place, and it's not. So we just wanted to separate it and kind of give us a little bit of privacy when we're out here working, and we're not over here on top of her. Like I said, she was excited when I told her I was going to plant trees across here. So anyways, that's what these are for, some privacy screen.
And now, tell them what they are and why you choose this variety. These are not Leyland cypress.
No, these are not Leyland cypress here. These are green giant arborvitae. These, at the moment, like Leyland cypress has a lot of diseases and stuff like that that will attack them. Right now, at the moment, the only thing that'll get on these is a bagworm that'll kill it. I'm sure at some point there'll probably be something else that comes out and will attack these.
What are you doing?
But these have a better growth structure, in my opinion, than a Leyland cypress does. They don't have they don't tend to break. I've seen a lot of Leyland cypress break out or stuff. These won't do that, and they just almost have like a perfectly Christmas tree type shape to them once they take off and start growing. It's the same tree we have around the edge of our yard at our house. And those trees have only been there, what, 10 years? And they are huge. Our biggest problem with planting something up here is we have no way to keep it watered. So we're gonna have to figure out a way to haul water up here. And, well, Maggie, you about hit me with that. These trees right up here, you can see, are a little bit bigger. We actually dug those up from our house. We thinned out that last row we planted at the house. And so I will be really excited if any of them live, because when I dug them up, they were actually a lot bigger than I thought they were. And I was not able to get the amount of root with them that I wanted to. So if any of them live, I'll be excited. If they don't live, we'll just replace them with more this fall. It's no big deal. They were free. Well, we already had them, so we thought we'd try to get them started up here. But anyways, once we get these few more trees planted right down the property line here, we're going to extend into our apple orchard. We're going to turn this into apple orchard. This piece of grassy field here is not big enough to really use for hayland.
And it's a little steeper than it looks in the video, guys.
Yeah, we have one flatter sized field right here. So this piece right here is actually a cover crop on this little patch of field. This will get plowed up here soon and we'll be planting something in it, but it runs out just I don't know, maybe 20 feet over that way and then all the way up the property.
And this right here, this is our potato patch that you saw in the last video.
So we've already got 2 pecan trees planted out there. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see those or not, but we're gonna plant these apple trees right along the top of that ridge right there, and just kind of extend into our orchard. Like I said, it's not big enough to cut for hay. We don't have no water source up here, so it's not like we could bring animals up here and let it graze it. And we could, I guess, technically try to do like some rain catchment type stuff or whatever if we wanted to graze it, but honestly, we just really ain't got time for that. So we figured the best thing to be was plant some more fruit trees on it. And I mean, you can't ever have enough fruit trees.
And always, your land's not doing you any good if you're not putting it to some kind of use. So this is our way that we're putting it to use. All right, we got those privacy trees done. Now we're gonna get our apple trees in the ground. We'll go around, we're gonna show you what kinds we're planting.
So y'all, if y'all heard the live stream the other day, you know, we're gonna start possibly selling fruit trees and blueberry bushes and all that. Well, these right here will be, like, these ain't for sale, but these are the same apples and everything that we do have for sale right now. Right now we've got a wine sap, we've got a Macintosh, we've got 2 of the Grimes Golden varieties, we've got a Rome apple, and we've got a Honeycrisp. Oh, and that's a Cortland. So we've got 7 total here that we're going to plant up here. We are going to plant them right across the top of this ridge right here. I guess kind of like in a straight row. If we can't have enough room for all 7 of them, then we'll come on down to the middle of the field and maybe plant a couple down here. Right here's these pecan trees we planted.
Who knows if we'll see pecans in our lifetime, but hopefully our kids will.
We may see some pecans in our lifetime. It may be a while though. So how you see this here is exactly how we're going to fix our fruit tree. So we still have our work cut out for us here this morning. We've got to put up a cage around it like this because the deer will demolish them up here. And we want to get a good layer of mulch around them as well, just to help the weeds right around the tree, because we're not going to be up here mowing or anything like that. And basically just to help hold in the moisture where we don't have any means of watering up here. So these things did get frost bit. They had started coming out really good, and the frost bit them back, and so they're just now starting to put back out. But I just hope, you know, a pecan tree gets really big, and I hope that they have enough room right here to do what they need to do. But anyways, we're going to turn this whole thing into like a hillside orchard. We may eventually continue to add to it. I'm kind of got a vision in my head of once the apple trees get in, we can make like one long continuous mulch bed across those apple trees, and have like blueberries and blackberries and stuff like that mingled in amongst them. By no means do we need that stuff because we've got plenty of it at home. It's just, you know, I always just like to have backup in case something happens to those at home. Maybe these up here produce. But anyway, we're gonna get started with it, and we'll let you watch us put them in the ground, and hopefully we get everything mulched and the cages put around them this morning too. I'll tell y'all something. Just across this little patch of land right here, there's about 3 different types of soil. This one right here is like a sandy, loamy type soil, and it looks to be a fairly good soil. These first 2 holes are. Then you get up there, it gets red, like really red. Up at the very top of the hill, it gets really rocky. Then over here on the bottom 2 trees, that stuff is so red it almost glows. So we'll show you that when we get up there. But stuff like that amazes me how much it can vary in just a short space here. You know, I could understand if like this was a mile down the road and then that red soil was here, but it's like right here on top of each other. This almost looks like silt from like runoff or something at some point in time, because there's no red or anything in there anywhere. But anyways, So y'all, these are bare root trees that were just potted into pots. So you do, when you go to plant these, you have to watch pulling them out of the pot because they do fall apart pretty bad. But that's typical for fruit trees, at least around here anyways. That's usually about all you ever see. And I'll be taking and building with my extra dirt right there, building sort of a berm on the bottom side. I don't know if you can pick that up, Meagan. But just sort of making like a berm on the bottom side. And the purpose of that will be is when it rains or whatever, instead of water just rushing right off of here, that'll catch the water and let it soak in around the roots of the tree. And right there's your graft union of where this thing was grafted together to the rootstock. You always want to try to make sure, at least I do, I like to have that crown right there above the ground. You don't want to bury that. Maggie, there's your pot. Y'all check out the difference in the soil here. Just 2 holes up. And we're like red. Well, it's starting to get red. But it's just chunky. Kind of honestly, not very good looking soil. But, you know, this stuff will grow. It will grow something. It just takes a little bit of loving to make it grow. Soil like this right here holds water. Excellent. But what it don't do is allow for very good drainage. So, but like I said, we'll be working on that as time goes on. We'll keep these things mulched around, and that'll start helping out the soil and everything, and I feel like it's all gonna play out really good. There you go, Meagan. So y'all, this hole right here, the soil's so hard in it, that auger wouldn't even go down in it. Look right here. That's a piece where the auger bit just spun and spun and spun in that clay.
That's hard as a rock.
Hard as a rock. So I've got to kind of scrape it out with a shovel here. And you may think to yourself, why in the world are you planting those trees in that soil? Well, right down there at our house, where we planted apple trees, the soil was just like this. That happened to be a spot that got a lot of topsoil removed because when we had some grading work done, they pulled the topsoil off of that area and filled in a hole with it. And y'all, they've done just fine.
Jacob, to the woods, out of the field.
So, but we're working on those down there too. We're helping out improve the soil by keeping mulch around and everything. The main thing is to get the trees in the ground, and you can always top dress with any type of amendments or whatever you want to put into the soil. Because believe it or not, if you've got good life in your soil, which up here right now we don't, but we're working on that. If we keep, amending everything here, if you've got good life in your soil, those earthworms and all the microbes and everything, they will work every bit of those amendments down into the soil. Y'all, here's a rock. It's like some type of sandstone or something. I don't have much dirt to work with here to make that berm. Here you go, Maggie. So y'all, here's the super bright red hole. Look at that stuff, it glows.
It's almost as orange as your tractor.
Yeah, it is, ain't it? Look at that. Now typically that's the kind of soil you see a lot of around here, is that bright red clay.
If you hold on, you'll have another one. Walk down here and get it.
Oh, this one was rooted in really good.
One dirt fell in it.
There you go, Maggie. That's how Mom and Daddy's garden is, ain't it?
Yeah, just like that. Rocks.
They plant their garden in clods that look like that right there.
That and rocks.
And rocks, and I swear, y'all, I tell them all the time, I don't know how in the world they grow a garden in it, but they end up having some of the prettiest stuff you've ever seen. Well, that's it as far as planting trees.
Now, how long will it be before we get some apples off these trees?
Well, if nothing happens to them, you can usually, these are some older trees. I'd say these are probably at least 2 years old, maybe 3. But we won't get a whole lot of apples for a few years, but next year and the year after, we may see some apples on them. But a lot of times the rule of thumb is when you're young, what, Maggie? I'm gonna come back on a Kubota. I'm not bringing the tractor back. But usually your general rule of thumb is the first 2 or 3 years of having apples on it, you want to just pull your apples off because you want those trees to establish roots instead of fruit. But we didn't do that at home. Like last year, I think the very first year,
We did it the first
we did it the first year. And the second year, we just let them grow because they were too pretty to pull off. And they've been fine, so. Y'all, one other thing I want to note here is we have accidental nitrogen fixtures all over this place. This whole place was covered in black locust. And right there they are coming back out. And if you don't know, black locust is a nitrogen fixer, kind of like what we were talking about in the clover. And a lot of people in a permaculture orchard will plant these black locusts or any type of nitrogen fixer in with it and let them grow up so tall and let them develop roots and then cut them back off. And when you cut them off, like when you cut that tree off, you lose a certain percentage of your roots. And when you do that, that releases that nitrogen back into the soil. Where these are going to stay mowed, I'm curious if they may help our situation up here. Because, you know, they'll end up getting probably this tall before I actually bush hog through here. At least they did last year. And, you know, when they get mowed off, that should technically kill part of the root system and release nitrogen back into the soil. So we've got a pre-made permaculture orchard up here, and we didn't even mean for it to happen. But, so instead of us having to plant the nitrogen fixtures, they're already here. Now we just got to do the rest of the work to it. Well, let's go to the house and get some mulch and get back up here and get this. show y'all on what we're adding here. It's full of life. There's little worms. Right there's one. There's worms all in this. And that's a good thing. That'll help. You know, they're in there breaking down these wood chips is what they're doing. But they'll help work all that in, kind of like little mini tillers. And they'll work all that into the native ground that's here. That's gonna help us out a bunch. And what we're gonna do, if we ended up having a little bit much on the mulch, which really they need bigger tree rings than what we put out. But I was kind of limited on my mulch down there at the house. I didn't want to use it all just yet. So we're just putting like necessary around them just to keep the moisture in. But on this hole, and that hole, if we have enough, we're going to put extra mulch, because these three were the worst soil that we had, and so that'll kind of help out with that problem. But yeah, once we get this done, all we've got left to do, put the cages out, and we're finished.
So y'all, Andy made a good point a while ago off camera. You know, I know this seems like a ton of work when you could just stick the tree in the ground and be done with it, but we're trying to do it right and trying to do the best for the tree and the soil. And sometimes that's not always the quickest way, but it's the better way. It'll do us good in the long run, won't it?
Absolutely. I'm gonna tell you right now, the biggest benefit we'll get from it is holding in moisture, being that we don't have a way to water these things. This right here will help more than anything that we could do with that problem.
All right, we got our cages put out around all of our apple trees to protect them from the deer. So now it's lunchtime.
It's lunchtime, that's for sure. But we got all this done before lunch this morning. I will say that next year, or this coming fall, if these trees live, we'll probably take the cages off and cover them in bone saw when the trees go dormant. If any of y'all don't know what that is, check out Permapastures Farm channel, and it's a natural deer repellent that they make over there.
And it works like a charm.
It works like a charm, especially on fruit trees. It's actually invented for fruit trees. But you can't apply it to it when you have foliage on the tree. And we have found out real quick that we're going to have to figure out a way to get up here and water these things. So I'm not sure if you can tell, but they're starting to wilt just a little bit. And I'm assuming that's because when I planted them, you know, that root ball busted open like it did. So they just need some water back around them roots and settle everything in. So I think we've got that figured out. It's just something we got to go do.
Here it is, the end of the day, and y'all are just now joining me back in the YouTube world. It got real pretty busy on us. Andy worked the rest of the day trying to get the water tank fixed so we can get water to those apple trees. And I had some running that I had to do, some different things. So here we are. I'm gonna help him get a few broccoli plants in these raised beds. It's fixing to pour down the rain. I don't know if y'all can tell just how dark that cloud is. So anyways, I sure do appreciate all the support and y'all watching. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all on the next one.